Hey guys, Tony here. I'm not perfect. At the start of the year, I had a Canadian team winning the Stanley Cup. I just had the wrong Stanley Cup team at the start of the year. It's still going to be a Canadian team. I always thought it was going to be a Canadian team that's going to win the Stanley Cup this year, and now it makes complete sense why it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs that are going to win the Stanley Cup instead of the Montreal Canadiens. They have the same Jesuit coding that the Montreal Canadiens have. My main problem here was that I didn't go through all of the teams at the start of the year. That's something that I have room for improvement in order to correctly predict the NFL and the NHL. So Justin Trudeau, there's going to be a tribute to Justin Trudeau for this upcoming Stanley Cup Finals. He was born in the province of Ontario, Canada. That's also the same province where Toronto is located at. I think it's very fitting that we may have a presidential tribute for the Washington Nationals winning the World Series as the team from the nation's capital. Likewise, we may see the same thing with Justin Trudeau and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto, the capital of Canada, there's going to be a special tribute to them. There may be a tribute to the Toronto Raptors as well, especially with Kyrie Irving's injury. There is two narratives going on with Boston losing in the finals or having a Canadian team in the NBA Finals. I'm going to touch up that some more, but I'm going to break it down to you by the numbers. Justin Trudeau is the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada. The last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup was in the year 1967. 1967 has a year numerology that equals 23. Justin Trudeau, the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada. Likewise, the year 1967 adds up to 86. Is there going to be a tribute to the Pope? I don't know. But the reason why there's going to be a special Jesuit tribute for the winner of the Stanley Cup, it is because the 17-18 sports year adds up to 35. What equals 35? Cardinal, Pope's Bishop. We also have Catholic in Gematria equaling 35. I wonder what Maple Leafs in Gematria equals. Maple Leaf equals 71 and 35. Again, I didn't do my research. It makes perfect sense why the Maple Leafs are going to be the team that ends Canada's Stanley Cup title drought. The last Stanley Cup team to win was in the year 1993. Time equals 47 degrees on the Freemason compass. Freemasons, the true holders of knowledge that happens over time. Saturn, the keeper of time, equals 93 in Gematria. The last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup was the Canadiens in the 1993 Stanley Cup Finals. Again, the Canadiens, if they won the Stanley Cup this year, it would have been their 35th Stanley Cup title. That's why I had the Canadiens at the start of the year. It's going to be a Canadian team 24 years later that is going to end the Stanley Cup drought in the year 2018. That's 25 years later. That's 24 seasons later, because there was a lockout that occurred, I think, in 2005, but there was one season that wasn't played for the NHL. It's something to keep note. It's going to be very significant for what's going to come. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Toronto, Canada, the city and the country, that equals 51 in Gematria. And what's very interesting about this 51 reference was that there's a time span of 51 years from the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup to this year. And we're going to know for sure if the Maple Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup once we know what their win total is at the end of the year. it would take 16 wins to end up winning the Stanley Cup. So 2018, subtracting 1967. Again, this is a time span of 51 years. Justin Trudeau, the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada, 1967, year numerology of 23. Justin Trudeau. Trudeau from Ontario. Trudeau in gematria equals 48. Interesting that Donald Trump's gematria equals 48, and we may see a very real championship tribute that's going to play out for both presidents in this year, 2018. The Toronto Maple Leafs were founded on November the 22nd. That was the day that their franchise was founded, November the 22nd of 2018, as a year numerology of 71 and 51 when you get rid of the 20. Interesting enough. Again, 71 is very significant for the Jesuits because Catholic in gematria equals 71 and 35. The Society of Jesus equals 71 in gematria. The year numerology of the day that the Toronto Maple Leafs got established is going to be very fitting. The singular way, 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2, that's 6, 8, 9, 10, 17. So the 17 sports year, it's going to be pretty fitting for Toronto the rest of the way. The NHL playoffs starts on April the 11th of 2018. We get rid of the 20. It's got a date numerology of 33. I haven't seen the 33 references yet for Toronto, but I'm going to go out there and be sure to keep an eye out for them. The date duration, I thought I had a date duration here. Okay, Justin Trudeau's birthday, it's on Christmas Day. So the right interpretation for a Trudeau tribute from Montreal is that he's from the same province where Toronto is located, and he's born on the day of Christ's birth. And this is going to be a very special tribute to the Jesuits for the president born in the region of Ontario, where Toronto is located at. This makes perfect sense why it is Justin Trudeau that is in power right now. He assumed office on November the 4th. The amount of time from that day to the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs is 5 months and 7 days. Justin Trudeau assumed office in November for his first government position. His first government position can be very significant. The number 57 is a championship number. Once again, championship in gematria equals 131. Going back to this date duration, 107 days from Trudeau's birthday, Christmas Day, to the start of the playoffs, 107 days. Championship drought for the team that is from the province where Justin Trudeau was born. It makes perfect sense right now why it's going to be Toronto. Now, the day that he assumed office as the Prime Minister, October 14th? Maybe that's the day. When was he president? Okay, Prime Minister. Okay, he was sworn in on November the 4th. 158 days. The question is why is this significant for his Zionist overlords? When you include the end day, notice that this is 23 weeks. The 23rd Prime Minister, the year numerology of the last time the Canadians won the Stanley Cup equals 23. How about 67 and 18, the years? These add up to 85 as well. I don't see much with the 85. Okay, here. 158 days from the day Trudeau assumed office, the date in April the 11th. 158 days. This could be a sign that the gang out there is rigging the Stanley Cup playoffs for this Canadian team. Nation of Israel equals 158. Justin Trudeau is a Zionist. He is a Zionist puppet, and people in Edmonton and other areas of Canada hate this guy because of his broken promises and having policies that primarily help his home province of Ontario. This is why the people hate Justin Trudeau. He gets away with it because of his looks. He's highly unpopular in Canada. If you're Canadian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Maple Leafs, their 101st season, Philadelphia won the Super Bowl, the biggest sporting event in America. The Stanley Cup is the biggest sporting event in Canada. Philadelphia in gematria equals 101. I think this is going to be very interesting tribute from the Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup. There's definitely a connection with Philadelphia in the number 101. The Super Bowl was played on February the 4th, April 11th, the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We don't know the date of the Stanley Cup title. Holy hell. 67 days from the day of the Super Bowl to the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The last time the Maple Leafs won a Stanley Cup was in the year 67. It all makes perfect sense right now why it's going to be Toronto. It makes complete sense. And end of a drought for Canada, which could happen when Toronto wins its 14th Stanley Cup. It now makes perfect sense right now. End of a drought. End equals 23. Trudeau, the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada. There's going to be a Canadian team that's going to win the Stanley Cup. It makes perfect sense right now why it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs that are going to win the Stanley Cup Finals. 101 years ago, they were established. Okay. The team leaders, how about the goal scorer? This guy's got to have a pretty fitting birthday somewhere. His birthday on May the 4th. Jesuit order equals 54. It is, when breaking down the further Jesuit tribute, city of Toronto equals 69. Bishop of Rome equals 69. It is the Jesuit order in gematria that equals 69. Justin Trudeau, the native from the province of Ontario, is he Catholic? What is his faith? A devout Roman Catholic. This is where the Jesuit tribute is. It all has to do with this home province. This was the main issue that I had with my original research back in May of last year. It makes perfect sense right now why it's going to be the Maple Leafs that are going to win this Stanley Cup Finals. Toronto Maple Leafs equals 72. The Maple Leafs, when they win the Stanley Cup, it would occur during the 72nd NBA Finals. Very interesting how this is the case for them. The Toronto Maple Leafs would win the Stanley Cup before the World Cup being played at Russia. The number 87. Messi's birthday of 87. Russia equals 87. The Messi prophecy equaling 204. I mean, these sporting events are interrelated. It's scripted. It's rigged. It all makes perfect sense why this is the case. The Maple Leafs. This is all the research I have. There's probably more to come, but I guarantee you it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win. This guy, May the 4th, how about the time duration from the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs to his birthday? I think this is the last clue that we have for the winner of the Stanley Cup. His birthday numerology of 47. It is time in gematria that equals 47. The keeper of time. 23 days from the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs to his birthday. End equals 23. Trudeau, 23rd Prime Minister. There's much more to come, but this is the end right here. It's going to be the Maple Leafs who are going to win the Stanley Cup Finals. More to come. I've always said there's going to be a Canadian team that's going to win. Now I know for sure that this is a Canadian team that's going to win the Stanley Cup.